Welcome back to day two. So happy Friday. And it looks like everyone, or most of you, got into most of everything yesterday. We'll keep working out all our problems, but it is time to read our second chapter of Be a Perfect Person in just 3 days. So, chapter two, let's review a little bit what happened yesterday. We do know that Milo did check out the book. He read the first few chapters. And did he follow the directions? Hopefully you're remembering he did not. He was not supposed to look at the back of the book. He went and looked anyway. And Dr. Dr. Silverfish said, you have one more chance, so you have to read the next chapter tomorrow. So let's see how he does. Chapter 2. Milo had 2 cream-stuffed Twinkles. It does say Twinkles, not Twinkies. That must be a pretend Twinkie. And a glass of milk, and went to his room to get his homework out of the way. It took him longer than usual because his mind kept drifting to Dr. Silverfish's book. Milo kept imagining what it would be like to be a perfect person. He'd be able to do anything he wanted to and do it right the first time. He would be able to throw out all of his erasers. Why would he be able to throw all of his erasers if he was perfect? Because he wouldn't make mistakes, right? He'd be able to do anything he wanted to do and do it right the first time. He would be able to throw out all of his erasers. He could correct his teachers in front of the class and never be wrong. He'd get all perfect scores on all his tests. Best of all, nobody would ever have anything to scold him about. It sounded, perfect. He decided he'd read Dr. Silverfish's instructions right after dinner. Of course, he was far from perfect yet. At dinner, his father told him not to slurp his soup. His mother told him to quit eating so fast. And his sister told him to put his feet on his own side of the table. Milo couldn't stand it. I bet you'd love me if I turned perfect, he said. His mother chuckled. Not much chance of that, is there? I'd settle for okay, said his father. Nobody's perfect. Especially Milo, laughed Eliza. I'll show them, Milo thought. Just 3 more days. And he gave his sister a kick under the table. There was no sense being perfect till he had to be. After dinner, Milo went upstairs, sat down at his desk, and picked up his copy of Be a Perfect Person. Even with the clown nose, Milo decided Dr. K. Pinkerton Silverfish looked extremely intelligent. Milo began wondering what the K stood for. Carefully, so he couldn't possibly stumble on anything he wasn't supposed to read yet. He opened the book to the inside back cover and found Dr. Silverfish's biography on the jacket flap. So let's think, what's a biography? I'll give you time to think in your head. You might remember from 3rd grade. Okay, a biography is a story about someone. Okay, so if someone has a biography written about them, it's a story about their life. And it can be a short summary. So this is in the back of the book, like back in here, where you can read about the author. Is Dr. K. Pinkerton Silverfish the world's leading authority on perfection? You bet your booties, Grandma. He is also Thompson Seedless Professor of Enology at the Ripple campus of Skid Row College. He holds degrees from Fahrenheit University and Celtigrade Institute, but when his arms get tired, he puts them down. As a hobby, Dr. Silverfish raises Venus flytraps. He also owns the world's 2nd largest collection of unusual toothpicks. Milo closed the book. His question remained unanswered, but he felt ready to begin. So I don't know, would you think someone was intelligent if that's what their biography said? You have to think what Milo's thinking. He took a very serious deep breath and opened the book to where he'd left off at the library. Day 1. You can't take the last step to perfection until you take the first. I know what you're thinking again. You're wondering what the K in my name stands for. Well, I'm not going to tell you. There are a lot more important things for you to wonder than what the K stands for, and that's why you're here. Close your eyes, count to 10, and open them again. Milo did. Wasn't that a lot more important than wondering what the K stands for? Of course. Now here are your instructions for the first day. When you finish reading this, get a stalk of broccoli and tie a loop of string around the end. Leave it in your bedroom overnight. When you're all dressed tomorrow morning, put the string around your neck and wear the broccoli like a necklace. And don't take it off until I tell you to. See you tomorrow." Milo couldn't believe his eyes. He turned the page. "Well, don't just sit there and stare. Go get the broccoli. And don't turn any more pages. Shut the book this instant." What is going on? Would you follow those directions? If you could be a perfect person by wearing broccoli around your neck, would you believe that? Let's see what Milo thinks. Milo obeyed. He set the book down on his desk and looked at the picture of Dr. Silverfish. It was hard to tell because the doctor's hot dog blocked off his expression, but Milo thought the doctor might possibly be smirking at him. And a smirk is kind of a sneaky smile. Milo didn't think about it very long, though. What he had to do now was find some broccoli. He went down to the kitchen and opened the freezer. Underneath a bowl of Fake Whip, behind a bag of instant waffles, he found what he was looking for. "Broccoli," read the package, "and a delicious imitation cheese sauce made only from the finest, most succulent chemicals." Dr. Silverfish hadn't said anything about imitation cheese sauce, but it was liable to be messy when it thawed out.
"Mrs. Wiggs, call the office."
Sorry about that. I'm still at school. Milo closed the freezer and opened the refrigerator. He was in luck. There in the crisper, right next to the plastic bag of carrots, with a buck-toothed bunny on it, was a huge stalk of broccoli. Milo wondered whether he should take it without mentioning it to somebody. Normally, his parents didn't mind his taking things from the fridge, but usually what he took was milk or pie or pop or something. Vegetables were a different story. Milo couldn't remember taking a single vegetable out of the refrigerator, unless pickles and olives counted. He figured he'd better ask, just to be on the safe side. Milo went into the living room where his parents were watching the news. "Mom? Do you mind if I borrow some broccoli for a while?" His mother shook her head. Milo wasn't sure if it meant she didn't mind or she wanted him to be quiet so she could hear about the gorilla war at the zoo, but he decided it probably didn't matter much one way or the other. He took the broccoli upstairs along with some string. Milo had a hard time keeping his mind on anything but broccoli the rest of the evening. He wondered how in the world wearing a stalk of broccoli around his neck could possibly help make him perfect, and he was half tempted to peek in Dr. Silverfish's book and try to find out. But he figured the doctor would probably outsmart him somehow, so he didn't bother. He'd been outsmarted once too often. Maybe that was part of the secret to being perfect, Milo thought. Not letting people like Dr. Silverfish outsmart you. Well, he'd find out soon enough. Maybe. That night, Milo dreamed about being perfect. He was sitting on top of a huge piece of broccoli. A halo of green light surrounded him as he smiled down at all the imperfect people in the world and laughed at their mistakes. His sister bumped into the broccoli stalk and stubbed her toe, and Milo laughed and laughed. His mother locked her keys in the car, and Milo howled. His father dropped a big bag of groceries, and Milo roared. In fact, he laughed so hard he fell out of broccoli, or rather, bed. And that is the end of chapter 2, so we will stop there and come back to read chapter 3 next time. But what I want you to be thinking about, what do you think you would do if you were Milo and you're reading this book? Would you think that the doctor's advice would be something that would make you perfect? Or do you think Milo's just trying to kind of have fun? So I want you to keep thinking about that. All right. So all of you, I will see you Monday for our next read aloud. Have a wonderful weekend.